But we are going to get started. My name is Linda Hamilton. I'm the Executive Director of ANCA Redlands, which is Accelerate Neighborhood Climate Action. And I don't want to take a long, let me just ask, how many are here for the first time? I think we have some new people here. That is wonderful. Thank you. It's great to have you here. So I need to say a few words about what ANCA is, in case you're wondering. It stands for Accelerate Neighborhood Climate Action. And our mission, as you can see there, is to work collaboratively to build climate resilient communities, neighborhood by neighborhood. We have 3 goals. One down there, I should do our vision first. Our vision is to create a network of climate resilient communities across the Inland Empire where every neighborhood is empowered with the knowledge, resources, and collaborative spirit needed to tackle climate change. Okay? And our goals, we have 3 of them: to reduce carbon emissions, to increase readiness for more severe climate impacts, and also to ensure environmental justice in everything that we do. Okay? So that's who we are, very briefly. So one other thing that is important for us is everything that we do now is guided by this vision. And I think when times get difficult, it's so important to have a positive vision of what you're moving toward. This is a vision that we've put together based on our initial work. We've gotten a lot of community input into this. So this is a vision of what needs to be in place in a climate resilient community. It's not totally comprehensive, but there's a lot of key elements here. So just to know that that's kind of what we work off of. So this program, the intent of this program, which is called Resilient Living, Facing Climate Challenges Together, is really to encourage all of us to learn more about climate change and what we can practically do to meet the challenges of the future, which according to scientists is actually here now. The UN just announced today that we are on track to set another record year for global carbon emissions. So adaptation, which is really what building climate resilience is all about, a more sustainable way of living is becoming more and more important. And that's really the focus of our programs here. We should also acknowledge that there is, I hate to say this, but not a lot of hope for seeing a lot happen in climate on the federal level for sure. Fortunately, we live in California, yay, right? Yeah, but it does make what work at the local community level so much more important. And I haven't, and I haven't even mentioned that this administration, the new administration, apparently is going to pull us out of the Paris Accord. How many of you know what the Paris Accord is? Yeah, I figured you all would. You know how serious that is. So that's kind of what we're facing in the very near future. But our program tonight is about trash, or waste if you prefer, and solutions. And one of those solutions is recycling. So I want us to begin to get to know our neighbors this morning by, we're going to turn to each other and share our name. And I want you to think back at one time when you stood perplexed, maybe at a fast food place or something, and you had some stuff in your hand that you needed to get rid of and you wanted to recycle it, and you're looking at the bins. There's trash, there's recycle. Which bin do you put what in, right? How many have had that experience? Everybody. So I want you to think about your most recent experience. What were you holding in your hand that raised that question? Which bin does it go in? I have that experience in my kitchen as well, trying to recycle at home. What's recyclable? What isn't? So I want you to turn to your neighbor and share that thing that you were holding in your hand most recently that you didn't know what to do with, okay? And I'm just gonna give you 30 seconds each, all right? So go. Find somebody you don't know. Don't talk to your best friend or your spouse. Okay, time for the second person to share. Okay, time's up. I want to hear a couple of things that you mentioned. What's one thing that made you wonder? One thing, yes.
The plastic utensils that comes with takeout food.
Okay, plastic utensils. What do we do with them? What's another one? One and two. Styrofoam, right. Another one?
Food-covered foil.
Food-contaminated
foil.
Food-contaminated foil. Yeah, or even food-contaminated paper back there.
When you wipe out the pan with the butter, with the paper towel.
Okay. Okay.
You got it.
All right. Okay, got it. Anybody over on this side? Yes.
Check locally.
What's that?
Check locally.
I didn't catch it.
Check locally.
Check locally. The local, yeah, and that's what we're here for tonight. Yeah. Okay. So I think most of you are aware of the waste problem that we have in this world, but you might wonder, what is the connection really to climate change? I would say it is complex. I'm not going to give you a big lesson on that, but one thing that we do know is that our landfills are producing methane, right? It's coming from all that trash, particularly food waste. And that methane is much more powerful than carbon emissions. And so that it's part of what is accelerating the warming right now. Another thing we know is our population is continuing to grow, and we are continuing to consume. In fact, I would say, if you'll forgive me, that we're probably over-consuming. And so our trash problem, if we don't change our ways, is really just going to keep getting worse, isn't it? So we are literally poisoning our oceans, we're poisoning our land, and we're poisoning the atmosphere. So a third thing to know is that this holiday season will generate at least 25 million additional tons of garbage. This includes food. Think of all the holiday food we eat. Paper goods, right? Tons of paper goods. Wrapping paper. And I hate to say this, but unwanted gifts perhaps. Okay, so that's why we're doing this program tonight in November. So to help us kind of clear up the confusion about recycling, I think, which could help our waste problem, we are very happy tonight to have 4 people here who really know about recycling, what we can recycle and what we can't, and what a zero waste community might look like. So let me just put up their names here and just say a word about them, because we want to get this program underway right away. But our first speaker, right, is Carrie Keyser. Carrie is from the City of Redlands. She's a recycling coordinator. Carrie's been with the city for 2.5 years, and she says a fun fact is that she started with Redlands on Slurpee Day, which is July 11th, in case you want to make a note of that. And prior to that, she worked for the city of Beaumont for 18 years, with several years in solid waste. The second speaker is Joaquin Flores, who is the manager of the Burtech Materials Recycling Facility in San Bernardino, which sorts Redlands mixed recyclables. And he has worked for Burtech for 9 years, yep. And we've done a tour through Burtech, and I'll tell you, it's very, very interesting to see. And then we're also happy to have from Burtech, Robert Rios, who's at the back table there. He's worked for Burtech for 25 years in various capacities. He's now the regional marketing director, responsible for sales and marketing of recyclables such as fiber, plastic, metal, and organics. So if you didn't stop back there when you came in, be sure you do after the program, because it's really, really interesting what he's got in those jars back there. It's not edible, but it's really interesting. And then our final speaker is Dick Cornet. Dick is on our board of directors. He's the president of our board, and he's a retired civil engineer. He recently wrote a paper on the circular economy. How many of you have heard of that? A few of you. For the Fortnightly Club, should ask how many's heard of that, of Redlands, which is what he's going to be talking about tonight. So let's get started, and please save your questions until the end. We'll have about 15 minutes for Q&A. Okay, thank you.
All right. Fantastic. Hi. All right. So me. Okay. So now that we're all friends, let's talk trash, because I like to talk trash with my friends. So now that we're all friends, let's talk trash. How many here have heard of SB 1383? That's like 5 of you. That's not enough. That's really not enough. So SB, or Senate Bill 1383, was signed in 2016, went into effect in January 1 of 2022, and it was to help methane emissions, as Linda mentioned, to keep food waste out of the landfill. So the whole purpose is to keep food waste out of it, to turn it into a compost, mulch, and recycle it. So it's also known as California's short-lived climate reduction strategy. Landfill food and other organic waste rotting in landfills emits methane climate pollution, and it contributes to all the things that Linda mentioned: hotter summers, frequent droughts, and wildfires. So it gives you a little bit about the history that in 2016, Governor Brown signed it, stating that we needed to reduce all of these emissions by 2025, which is like next week. Because, it's really, honestly, it's like next week. By the time Thanksgiving comes, it's the end of the year, and then it's like July of 25. So, and then on top of that, edible food recovery is part of it. So that's another big thing, is we are trying to take those that don't have access to food. We are trying to collect that food that is still edible, and that it can be taken to food banks, and it to be given to those that are suffering a food shortage. All right, so what and how is Redlands doing our part? So we have implemented a residential curbside collection for all those single-family residences. You put it's really easy. You just walk out, put your food waste in your green waste cart, and off it goes, and it gets recycled. We did have drop-off locations, so if some of you remember us having drop-off locations, we eliminated those. We've made it super simple for you. You just put it in your green waste bin. And you kind of make your own compost pile in your green waste bin, if you think about it, between the food and the yard waste. It kind of creates its own little compost pile. So you're helping the climate. So we are doing our part we signed an edible food recovery MOU with the County of San Bernardino. They are going out and working with all of the Tier 1 and Tier 2 businesses, and I'll get to that slide in a moment, because you're like, who the heck is a Tier 1 and a Tier 2? So they're working on our behalf and making sure that the food that is still edible is collected, it's monitored, and it is tracked. So that way we can make sure that those that are not, don't have easy access to food can get it. And so since 2022, some food service businesses must donate edible food to organizations, and that started this year. So, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of kids, a lot of adults that just don't have access to food, and this part of SB 1383 is a big proponent, or component rather, of SB 1383. So what is a Tier 1 and a Tier 2? So in January 1 of 2022, all the businesses here on the left, which is grocery stores, food service providers, food distributors, they are supposed to be setting aside edible food. So if there's lettuce, bananas, apples, oranges, anything that is consumable, that isn't expired, isn't rotten, is collected and set aside and taken to food banks, and then given to those that don't have easy access. And then starting this year in 24, everything on the right-hand side, those started being tracked. So hotels that have restaurants inside of them, have continental breakfasts. Think of all the food that when you walk into a hotel and you see all this food there and you take a portion of it, it's like, where does the rest of it go? The state has now required a lot of these businesses to donate those foods and to have it be collected. All right, so to help reduce food waste and help address food insecurity, SB 1383 requires that by next week, basically, we will recover 20% of edible food that would otherwise be sent to landfills. So again, the state is really pushing for all edible food to be given to those that are food insecure. So we must establish a food recovery program. We have food donors that must arrange to recover the maximum amount of their edible food that would otherwise go to landfills and rot and create those methane emissions. And then food recovery organizations and services that participate in 1383, they must maintain records. So everything is tracked. Everything we do is tracked, and everything they do, I have to report back to the state. So everybody is being accountable. There's a lot of accountability. All right, so how can you do your part? I don't know if any of you have seen these, but this is episode 2 of Talking Trash.
Beginning April 1st, 2024, all Redlands residents will be required to dispose of food waste and green waste, also known as yard waste, in the same green cart. Let's take a closer look in this episode of Talking Trash. Senate Bill 1383, also known as SB 1383, is a statewide mandatory climate pollution reduction strategy. The state of California has set a goal to reduce methane gas emissions, and organic waste is one of the largest producers of methane gas in landfills. Residents in Redlands will help accomplish this goal by disposing of their food waste and green waste in the same green cart. This change will begin April 1st, 2024. But what exactly is organics? The term organic waste or food waste is used to describe any type of food or green waste that would typically end up in a landfill. Organic or food materials include food scraps, plate scrapings, peels, and other foods, including fruits, vegetables, cooked meat, seafood, dairy, eggshells, breads, expired foods, or foods not suitable for consumption, as well as grass clippings, tree trimmings, leaves, and weeds. Food waste will not need to be bagged and will go directly into the yard waste container. With all this in mind, let's recap all the important things to remember starting April 1st, 2024. All residents will be required to dispose of their unwanted food waste and loose yard waste in the same green cart. Thanks for watching this episode of Talking Trash, and don't forget to visit any of our social media platforms or website for additional information.
Thank you. All right.
5 words you pronounce wrong.
Now I have bangs. I didn't have bangs back then, but now I have bangs. It's just hair, it grows back, right? So it's fun to play. All right. So what I've been doing as of late is I have been doing lid flipping, and that is one of the components of the law for SB 1383. So if you see me or a gentleman out in the field and we're walking around and we are looking in your yard waste and in your recycle bin, we're doing it because it's part of the law. So we'll leave you a little oops tag. So I don't know if any of you have gotten one yet, but don't, if you have, it's just a friendly reminder. It's not a bad thing. But these are some pictures. We're going to go over some pictures real quick of things that I've seen in the field. And I want you to take a look and tell me where you think the contamination is, because every single one of these has contamination. All right? So in this first one, what do we see? Fabulous. Same here? Okay. All right. How does food waste go in your bin? Loosely. No bags. No compostable bags. No biodegradable bags. No plastic bags. No bread bags. Nothing. All right? So loosely. Next. All right. What about this one? Right? This is what I get to see.
Address up there so you can be publicly.
Well, yeah, they're not really the address. It's just pretend. This one, what do we think it is? Dog poop. Dog poop. Does dog poop belong in your green waste bin? No. Do you know how many times I open the lid and there it is right on top? It's phenomenal. Okay.
But doesn't it come, I'm sorry, no questions.
Yep, save them. All right, this one, what do we see?
Is that wire? Ivy? No.
Right here.
A carton.
It's a plastic carton. It's like a little tomato box. Yep, see, these are like I've got to really, really look, so it makes the day fun. All right, what do we see? Dog poop bag. How many times I've seen that? And they're like, and you have to understand, most of the time it's going to be your neighbor that has walked by with their dog and they've put their bag on their green waste cart. So if you don't do it, talk to your neighbors and remind them not to do it to yours. So these are conversations and information that you are now expected to go back to your neighborhoods and share. All right, what do we see in this guy?
Something down there.
Right here.
What is it?
It's a pizza box. It's a pizza box. Those are not allowed. Pizza boxes do not go in the green waste container. All right. If you have a pizza box, and Joaquin can correct me if I'm wrong, if you've got a clean top, tear the top off and put it in your recycle bin, and if it's dirty, throw it in the trash. All right. But no pizza boxes. I know there was some information that went out in the Prop 218 that gave some information about SB 1383. Unfortunately, I was not given the opportunity to have input on that. And so it went out. Those are the legal requirements of SB 1383, which is food soiled papers, those kinds of things. We are not there yet. It's all dependent upon processor. And our processor is a small mom and pop shop, and they do not have the ability, like a large facility like Burtec, where they have a ton of people and they have a ton of machines that can do these things. I've been out to one stop. It's 2 guys with pickers sorting through the green waste and the food waste, along with about 400 donkeys that are out there going through the yard waste. So we have to really, really do our part to have a clean product that they can break down and make into a compost in the mulch that you guys get for free, because you guys get free mulch from them. So you want a clean product. So clean in, clean out. All right. So we're going to have a little bit of mix of recycling and, so what do we see in this guy? So this is a blue bin. What do we see in there that should not belong?
The bag, plastic bag.
Plastic bags, yes. All right. What do we see in this guy?
Looks like a smashed bottle, plastic bottle or something in there. Something white to the left. What is that?
Coffee filter. No coffee filters. No coffee filters.
Really?
Yep. You can put your coffee in there, just no coffee filters, because they can't take paper. They can't take a food soiled paper. So no napkins, no dirty napkins, no coffee filters, those kinds of things. All right. We're assuming here in this box, we're assuming the pizza's clean, but we don't know. But if it's dirty, it doesn't belong there. All right. What do we see in this guy? Napkins, yes, absolutely. All right. This guy. Want tortillas. They didn't want their tortillas. But right here. Bag of food.
What about the palm leaves?
Palm fronds technically do not go in there. They are a trash product. So yes. So that is, I'm not so concerned about that. I'm more concerned about the plastic bag. All right. And then this guy here. So we've got a couple things. We've got the bag of food, and then the plastic potted plant. You can take the plant out and put that in there, but the plastic does not go in there. So soil can go, that's fine, because that's a green product. So if it came from the earth, we're going to put it back to the earth. A plastic tub is not from the earth. So
How much soil can you put in there?
we will save questions until the end.
Oh, that's right.
Otherwise, we could do this all day long.
Yes.
Okay, so I think these are my last 2. So what do we see in this guy?
There's something here.
Is that a skunk?
Is it a dead animal?
Dead animal. Dead animal. Yep. Saw that just like 10 days ago. Yeah, I opened it and I was like, oh, that's a weird toy. And then I looked and I was like, there's a little arm with little fingers. Like, that's not. So I had to write on my little oops tags, no dead animals, please. That was a first. And then literally 2 houses down, there was a dead squirrel. So I was like, what is on this street? Something about this street and like dead animals. All right, and then this guy here. They have the right idea. They've got the right idea. They know that food waste goes in there, but then they've undone everything that they've done because they've left it in the back. So you can see people are trying, right? People are trying. They're putting their food waste in there, which is great, but we've got to do better. We've got to do better. We have to help eliminate the contamination. All right, so how can you continue to do your part? Continue to keep your food waste unbagged. Again, loose inside the green cart. Assess your refrigerator and only purchase food that you know you can eat in a timely manner. This is a huge one, especially going into the holidays. You know, serving sizes, things of that sort. It's really important to not have excess food left over that you're going to put down the drain, which first of all, food does not belong in the drain, so don't ever put your food in your garbage disposal. And don't put it in your trash, but really take into consideration the amount of food. And we all think everybody's gonna eat a ton of this. In reality, they don't. So really kind of assess what you're making and really try to hone in on the appropriate serving sizes. And then consider taking non-expired pantry foods that you know you aren't gonna eat to a food bank. They do accept foods from regular people. You don't have to be a tier 1 or a tier 2. So if you know of a local food bank, take them your unexpired pantry staples. They can absolutely take them. And then talk to your neighbors and share the good news. That's all. You can help me. You can by helping me. It's all just a circle of love. So, all right. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, everybody. Joaquin from Burtec. Show you guys a couple pictures of our sorting process over at East Valley.
Go down. Press the down arrow. That'll be the next slide.
There we go. So these are sample sizes of material that's actually received from Redlands. The top one is a commercial stream, and then the bottom one is a recycle. We do perform studies on your guys' material every few months. So that's just a sample size of the last studies that were performed. This is how we feed our material through our sorting process. We start with the Caterpillar equipment, a 950 M. Picks up a scoop at a time, about 6 yards at a time, throws it onto a conveyor. It's actually here on the floor. That's where the material started running. Beginning of our sorting process. You do see one sorter here. His job is to remove any bulky material that might cause a jam while the material's flowing through the process.
Is that the hooker? Is he the hooker?
A fisher. We call him a fisher.
Somebody there, Richard said, oh, he's a hooker.
Yeah.
I was
Either
like,
way.
wait, that's not right. Don't call him that.
We call him a fisher.
A fisher. That sounds much better.
So this is our pre-sort area. We do have 8 sorters here, all digging through the material by hand. And we have 2 other employees on each side, which we call swampers. On there, each individual there has a different materials they're trying to pull. Everyone has a priority. They prioritize a certain item, and then there's also second items and third items behind that. So, the first couple guys in the front, their job is to pull any trash coming out, any electronic waste, large materials. Sometimes we do see tires coming through there. So, second group of guys is also trash and cardboard. The next guys, cardboard and other bulky materials. And the guys at the fine end are pulling out, actually on this side, they are pulling out any trash that might cause a jam onto our screen. Which
When you say pull, where are they putting it?
there's chutes here,
Okay.
and then there's bins next to them as well.
Okay.
So this is what we call our screen. The job of this equipment here is to separate any fibers from containers. So it's a set of metal discs with metal shafts with rubber discs on there. And from there, all the fiber is supposed to float to the top of the screen here. Any containers will fall to the floor, or not to the floor, to the bottom of the screen. From there, it'll go on to 2 different conveyor systems. The material that floated to the top comes to our quality control for our paper. On here we do have 6 sorters as well. their job is to pull anything that's not what we consider a waste paper. So whatever is not pulled from there will go into our baler, and that's where our final product will be produced to produce our fiber bales. So this is where it falls to. That is the bale that we produce. That's another one there. That's actually produced from the stream that we pulled from the study we did for Redlands. Those weigh about, say about 2,200 pounds each. The material that didn't make it to the fiber line, that fell to our container line, falls to this area here. We have another 6 individuals sorting through the material. Once again, each one has a different commodity they're pulling. They prioritize depending on the position, but they also have bins behind them to pull other materials as well. And on the back end here, we do have a conveyor that attracts our tin cans. So that material falls into our chute here. And whatever made it past that goes to this piece of equipment, to another metal shafts. This one does have a metal disc attached to it, which breaks any glass that came through. So any shards of glass will fall into this collection bin here. And whatever wasn't recovered throughout that process falls at the end of the line. And from here, we send it back to the beginning again to get a second chance at pulling the materials through. Our baler number 1, this is where most of the commodities are baled at. There you see our HTP natural, HTP color, then our tin cans. And this is the final product that comes out. Those are PET bales. Before our product is ready for shipment, we do go through a cleaning process. This is our bale dressing area. We do have one individual there, another employee who's in charge of dressing or cleaning all the bales before we set them up for shipment. All right, and now this is an example of the characterizations that we do for each of our customers, and this is specifically for Redlands. Once again, this is the material that we receive and collect specifically for different jurisdictions. That's your residential material. This is your commercial. And from here we'll go see what actually gets recovered. These are our cardboard bales. These all here are ready for shipment. Next is our mixed paper, which we've seen earlier. This is our bulky rigid plastic. Aluminum cans. Our tin cans. Our PP5. Our scrap metal. This we do not bale. It gets shipped as it's received. Colored glass. We do separate clear glass, brown glass, and green glass as it comes through our container sort. Our clamshells, clear plastics. Our non-UVC aluminum. That is PET. HTP natural. Our HTP mixed colored. This is our film plastic, clear film. And this is hazardous materials that does come through our streams. I set these up as examples. I can tell you Redlands does a great job of avoiding putting these into their collection bins. There's Aerosols, tires, and electronic waste, mostly TVs, computer screens. This is our screen finds. This is our, what I spoke about earlier about the glass. That is actually glass in there. So. And this is some of the residue that does come through. Most honestly, it's just bags that are non-recyclable, contaminated with food. There's green waste and water hoses that comes in there. A lot of plastics that we can't process, tarps. Once again, film plastic or paper contaminated with food, textiles, and non-recyclable plastics. Oops, that is all I had.
Well, I don't have as many pictures as they have, but I'm going to talk about sustainability and the circular economy. How many people have heard of the circular economy? A few of you. And how it relates to solid waste, too, and how it will become more sustainable. We'll have less waste to dispose of. So the first thing I wanted to do is define sustainability. So there's two definitions here. One is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That's pretty clear. The second is related to this diagram that's shown on the right, is meeting the basic needs of all humans without exceeding our Earth's ability to support humanity. So this little diagram shows, whoops, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. This little diagram shows what a social foundation is. What that means is these are the things that are required for us to perform, to live comfortably in here. And these things include food, water, social things, like you can see political things, pictures, etc. I have to look at my diagram here better. I can't see it as well. And the outer one is what's called an ecological boundary. And there are 9 substances, or sustainable boundary. They are 9 things that regulate the stability and the resilience of the Earth. And these are shown here. On the next slide, I'll show you what's happening with these. These boundaries, 9 planetary boundaries, scientists agree on these boundaries. And what's actually happened now is that over the last 14 years, we've exceeded 6 of these boundaries. We've crossed these boundaries. The first boundary, you can see with the orange, is what the areas that we've exceeded. So in 2009, for instance, we've exceeded the biodiversity boundary. So we have less biodiversity. We also have, climate change has impacted us also here. And we have more contamination from nutrients and phosphorus. The next one has to do with land use. So that's added to it. So that's the next boundary that's being crossed. Land use, deforestation, things like that. And then in the next 8 years, we crossed another 2 boundaries. One is fresh water. We have less fresh water now, and we have more demand for it, and what's called chemical pollution. So again, these boundaries reflect how we can live on our Earth and the limits that the Earth can provide for us. Now, how does this relate to other things? The linear economy is the economy that we have now, and this contributes toward the crossing of these boundaries. This is not a sustainable way of doing business in a linear economy. Did you know that 5% of the U.S. population, is 5% of the world's population, and we produce 25% of the waste in the world? We also, on a per capita basis, compared to other developed countries, we produce twice as much waste. Generally, we have 5 to 7 pounds per capita per day. Other countries have less than that, and countries like Japan have even much less than that. So this is a cradle-to-grave system, what we call a take, make, and waste. So let me go through this cartoon. Whoops. The first thing is we have over here is raw materials. We have raw materials that are taken to produce items. And during that production of things, we do have spillage and we have waste. The next thing, we use these things, and during that use, we have litter from these things, and they pollute things like the ocean can. And the last one is we throw things away. Everything that most of the things we produce, we throw away. And here is shown that. Very little is recycled really overall, but so we take raw materials, we produce things, we use them, and then we waste them. So we make stuff cheaply from limited, and we have limited single uses. Things are designed with obsolescence and without consideration for reuse, repair, and recycling. So what's the alternative to this? That's shown in this diagram, the circular economy. I'm going to read to you what a definition of the circular economy. Circular economy is a cradle-to-cradle system which conserves natural resources and with waste is designed out. The EPA has a definition and other people have definitions. The European Union has a definition that says it's a model of production and consumption which involves sharing, leasing, reusing, repairing, refurbishing, and recycling existing materials and products as long as possible. In this way, the life cycle of the products are extended. So as you can see in the diagram, recyclables are processed by recycling sector, the BERTEC, we just talked about that, the recycling sector. Raw materials from these become the raw materials for manufacture of new products. The new products are consumed, but before they are recycled, the products are repaired, reused, repurposed, and then the new product is made and the cycle starts over again. Companies make money by repairing, reusing, and repurposing a product prior to recycling, then use the recycled materials to build new products. So we reduce the amount of new raw materials that we use because we recycle over and over again. And many countries and companies are moving forward with this practice. And I have a paper about that. If you want to deep dive into that, I'll give you a copy of my paper on that. But that's the circular economy, and that's how we save resources. So I want to get into now to the 6 R's, defining the circular economy's sustainability hierarchy. And the ones that we most frequently see are the reduce, reuse, and recycle. But there are several other ones here, and I'm going to go through each one of those separately as they relate to solid waste and solid waste reduction. So, first one is refuse. Say no to what you don't need. Do you really need that latest, greatest thing when what you have works just fine? The newest and greatest cell phones is a good example of this, where Apple and others are always promoting the latest and greatest. But in fact, the largest amount of waste that's being generated now, or the amount of additional waste that's generated, is this electronic waste. There's almost 40 pounds per year per capita that's being disposed of all kinds of electronic waste. Do you need a product that wastes natural resources? Do you need a product that causes environmental damage? These are the things you should ask yourself. And obviously, if you refuse, you use less resources. Reduce, use less, conserve. You save money right away. You reduce the quantity of materials needed. You conserve natural resources. You decrease environmental damage. You lower the greenhouse gases. You know, if everybody drove a little less, we'd use less gas. So you use public transportation, if you bike, if you walk, all of those things, you could reduce the amount of pollution from automobiles, and you could also decrease environmental damage, reduce emissions. So reducing less, and an example being just use your car less and use other options is something we should consider. Reuse, repair, extend product life. Buy durable products. Buy well-made products. One of the things here is buy repairable products. There's a law in California now that says that for any product over $100, it's a right to repair law. The manufacturer has to provide a repair manual, special tools if it's needed for the repair, and spare parts for 7 years. So this is a new law that you'll see. Refurbish and repair used products. That's all about our repair cafe. We're going to have one coming up here in January, and those have been very successful. Reuse products and repair them rather than throwing them away, and use replacement parts from these. Next one is repurpose, find other uses. So industries can do this by retooling to find other uses or reimagine uses. That's the other thing. Did you know that electric batteries that are in cars have a life of maybe 10 years or less, but when they become 70 to 75% of the charge, they need to be replaced. There's a company in Signal Hill that's taking these and pairing these together and using them as a storage for solar energy. So these batteries can be reused at a lower level, but used for storage of solar energy. And food waste, as Carrie mentioned, is a big issue. 34 to 40% of food is generally wasted. That's an astronomical level. I do know that you can use some scraps to make some other meals like soup. My wife makes a lot of broth from the food scraps and soup. And then the traditional ones that we're talking about, the recycled materials. This is the rebirth, making new things from recycled materials. And all of these we've talked about tonight. These are all things that can be recycled. One thing that's very, very new is that there's a plant in Reno, Nevada that recycles EV batteries. And they do something called they take the battery and they produce the elements, lithium, cobalt, nickel. They leach these metals out so they can be reused to build new batteries. So there's lots of things that are happening now that is going to provide more opportunities for recycling. And then finally, rotting, composting, return to soil. How many people have a backyard compost? Quite a few people. And of course, now we have the opportunity with the city to provide a composting and compost material that's available to residents. So this is returning to soil. It's regenerating the soil and reduce or eliminate chemical fertilization. So anyhow, this is a great program now, and the last R is rot, or composting. And finally, true sustainability results from the overlapping of social, environmental, and economic systems and programs. You can see these circles there. So the sweet spot really is when all of these come together and you have a system or a product that is sustainable. And that's it for my talk, and I guess we'll go into Q&A now.
Thank you so much, all of our speakers. That was very informative. And I don't know about you, but I have like a zillion questions, right? So I'm going to ask the first question, and then we'll have our speakers. Why don't you all three come up here? Come up over here, right in the middle here, okay? And one question I wanted to start this off with, and I hope I didn't miss this when you were talking, Joaquin, but where will all those bales go?
Where do they go?
Yeah, where do they go?
We have multiple buyers for our materials, which
Okay.
our marketing director, Robert, is in charge of handling all that.
like an example?
Example, I tell you, our plastics, we have a buyer that's right down the street from us. So
Where does it go from there?
from there, that's, they process that material and then they sell it out to their buyers. I really don't know the answer to that
Does it go
one.
to another country?
Another country, most of our material stays here in the US. What does go out of the country a lot is our fiber material,
Is what?
our fibers, paper and hardwood.
But all of that material in the bales does get reused in some way, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. All right, thank you. All right, so you had your hand up first. And I'm gonna repeat your question so everybody can hear it.
You know, since China has stopped taking our plastic waste, do we have adequate number of people in this country to take the plastic waste and actually recycle it as opposed to simply taking it somewhere and dumping it?
So do we have adequate companies that can take that plastic waste and actually recycle it and make something
Or
new
is
out of
it
it?
just ending back in the landfill?
Right.
Robert, do you want to come up there?
Robert has a lot of answers.
Come on, Robert.
Yes, in regard, I'm gonna have a sore throat right now, but in regards to.
Come on over here and use the mic,
the
please.
fiber to begin with, the fiber is being sold not only domestically, we have mills here domestically.
Can you talk into the mic, please?
Yeah, we have mills here domestically that we're selling the cardboard to you and the mixed paper to you, and they're making it back into liner board, which goes back into cardboard. And then all of your plastics right now are all taken domestically to buyers here locally. The buyers that we work with will take it and granulate it, as you see back there on the table. They make it into pallets, or they make it into flake, after they wash it, and then it goes to manufacturers that then make bottles again. So it all stays here in the US for the most part, unless they need to send it overseas to be rebottled over there. But for the most part, everybody we work with is here in the US.
Thank you, Robert.
Yes.
One over here, Greg.
First of all, my name is Greg Thorson. I co-direct the Masters in Public Policy program here at the University of Redlands, and really want to thank you for being here. We're an environmental group, so I'm also an ANCA member, and so there are two kind of harder hitting questions. But again, really thankful you're here. I just want to set a quick tone for that. So we've got like two size containers that are largely coming from Burtec, the 90 gallon and 60 gallon, and they're almost identical in price, $109 and $106. And by the way, for those of us who are environmentalists, they're like obscene and hideous are the two sizes. That's literally like 2.7 tons per household and 1.8 tons per household annually. That's the size of waste. And for even that 33% reduction in waste, the price differential is 2%. And so my first question is, of the two, is we would like to partner with you to create an economy in Redlands for trash that incentivizes reduction in trash, not mass production of trash. The second one deals with the plastics issue, and this is the hard, folks. The real answer here is, like, as most of you know, the state of California is suing Exxon.
Exactly.
Because 95% of plastics are not being recycled, they're being incinerated, okay? And that is a very poor use of incineration, by the way. It has huge heat loss, release of phthalates, release of toxins. So is that also the case then in Redlands, that eventually 95% of that plastics is not actually recycled, because it is, the consumer badly needs to know that so that they change their behaviors? Is that plastic bottle in a landfill? 450 years is how long that plastic bottle that's 30 minutes to drink down lasts in a landfill. Thank you again.
Okay, Greg, I'm not going to try to repeat all that. So I hope we picked that up. And which one of you gentlemen would like to address that?
Well, on the size of the barrels, I can't speak on that because I don't work on the hauling side.
University of Redlands doesn't use Burtec. You are serviced by the City of Redlands.
That's fine. I live in Redlands.
So
there's 60 and 90 gallon barrels.
For residential,
equate
yes.
to 1.8 and 2.7 tons per year per household.
Okay, So, but you had stated that Burtech, but it's not Burtech that services you. If for University of Redlands and for city, for residences, you are serviced by me. So, yes. So what is your question related to? Is it related to size of carts?
Yeah, can we partner with you to change the incentives so that there's an incentive to reduce your production instead of having options between 1.8 and 2.7 tons per year, to really give cash incentives to change the market, to encourage us to not buy stuff with packaging within packaging within packaging and
That
cost
would-
it all.
So in other words, it would be a smaller container that you're lobbying for.
So we can't incentivize you because that's a gift of public funds. So as a city, we cannot do that. We can't say, here, use a smaller cart because that's a gift of public funds. So we have the smaller carts for that purpose. It's now through education and the buyers that you buy from, right? As a consumer, we buy from companies. It's now up to us as consumers to consume less. So it's our jobs as consumers to consume less, that way we have less waste. It goes back to all the 6 R's that Dick was talking about. So if we consume less, we'll have less trash. So recycling wise, I mean, if we can continue to recycle, they can handle it on their end, they can do what they need to do with it. And then laws are changing. SB 54 has been signed. It's single-use plastics. The governor is working on reducing that. So things are happening. It just may not be in our lifetime, in all honesty. In all honesty.
But Carrie, the city could produce a smaller trash bin for significant savings, right?
We are not going to. We have 2 options and we are not going to.
Thank you. Let's see, one over here, in the back.
What about multi-unit housing? I live in an apartment complex. We don't have a green waste thing. And they don't have just one for the trees they cut either. So we don't have the food or the green waste.
Okay, if you're in a multi, family dwelling, you don't have the green waste bins
Or the food waste.
or the food waste, which is, yeah.
So we are in the process of, we have a very, very long list, because as those of you that live here, you know that we have many, many multifamily properties. Anything more than 1 is considered multifamily. So we have duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, up to 500 units. And so we are slowly working our way through the list of multifamily properties. We are determining based on location if you are going to get a green cart or if you're going to get a tan cart. Single family residences will not be getting a tan. There is no additional cart that you will be getting. But multifamily, we are working with the property managers to determine how we can best serve you. And if that's green, then that means that the property manager or custodian needs to roll that cart curbside because that's how it will be collected. If it's a tan cart, then we have a separate truck that will come through and that's a separate charge. So we are it's very, rolling it out to single family residential, there was 0 financial impact. For multifamily, there is a financial impact dependent upon if they get a green cart or a tan cart. So there's a lot of components that go into it, and I promise you we are working on getting you a cart.
Would you consider putting back, for example, the one that used to be
The drop,
Kansas?
the drop-off location?
Drop-off.
No, we are not, because that would be going backwards, and we can't do
Why were
that.
they removed in the first place?
Because we went to curbside collection for single-family residential. And that was the biggest hit that we could make because the state required it. So we had to meet that state requirement. That happened almost 3 years ago now. So we were well behind the law and we had to get that rolled out to single-family residential. And that was my main concern, was getting this caught up with the law. Because if not, we are fined and we can't have that.
One more question.
Let's
There are some
really quick, 'cause-
apartments that don't even have recycling at all, of any kind.
Right, I was just gonna ask about that too. I have heard people say they don't have a green, how many of you do have green bins?
If you're a single
Okay,
family,
that's
you should
good,
have
huh?
it.
Yeah, okay, all right, that's excellent. So, yeah, so it's more the multifamily
Yeah.
dwellings, and I empathize with you, we're in the same. Okay, oh my goodness, there's so many hands. Where did I go last? On this side? Okay, Paula? Oh, no, wait.
How do we recycle broken glass?
Ooh.
Somebody breaks a wine glass. What I've been doing is putting it in a paper bag, stapling it, and labeling it broken glass. Is that a good thing to do, and putting it in recycling, or should it be in trash?
You can put it in your recycling bin.
Recycled.
Yeah, you can put it in your recycling bin. There's no need to package it or put it in another bag.
Because nobody's handling it?
That,
It'll get broken in the
Yes.
process of transport.
that was part of
so-
one of my slides. Some of that glass is broken and turned into fines.
Okay.
So-
So those people that are sorting are not sorting through broken glass?
They will go through it, but they do have their equipment to protect their hands from that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Over here.
The discussion included the information about expired foods. Is ANCA or the city or anybody working with improving that, because we know that those expiration dates are mostly bogus?
The city doesn't have anything to do with the expired
Yeah,
foods.
and you know, ANCA, I don't know what you guys may be involved in, or if there's anything we can get involved in, because that is a huge part of food waste. I happen to look everything up before I decide if I'm gonna get rid of it. But there are people that I know that they see that date and there it goes. And that is got to be a huge percentage of our food waste that's happening.
And I think that's why it's been addressed recently, and there's been a change in that, is because California is trying to lead the charge in reducing the food waste that is going into the landfills, because that's everybody's, motive in operation is they just dump it in the trash can because there's mold on my orange. Yes, probably, but you can still peel the orange, and the orange inside is fine, it's just the peel is bad. Bananas, same concept. When they go brown, if I don't use them right away, I slice them up and then I put them in my freezer, so that way they're easier to use when I want to use it for banana bread or something like that. So there's options, but the state is addressing that, and I know that that's been in the news recently. But as a city, we have no control over that.
Not necessarily the city, but, or communication from the city, like that, to the residents, that, these are things to consider in reducing your food waste. Just because there's mold on the outside of your orange, peel it, see what's inside, communicating those kinds of things to our
Thank you.
residents.
That's an excellent point, and even canned goods
Yes.
with the expiration date, they say that they can be good long after that expiration
yeah.
date, so that's really an important point, thank you. Anybody on this side? Oh gosh, okay, Betty?
It would be helpful to have a list of things that we go into recycling and things that do not.
Yeah.
We
Is
do-
it helpful
we
to have a
have
list of things that go into recycling and things that do not? And I want to add to that, why we don't have better signage and standardized signage on all of our recycling bins around the community. I think that would help so much.
We do have it, it's on our website. We've listed it on our website, what's allowable and what's not, so that's the first place that we would go. I don't believe in posting posters or handouts or things like that, because they end up in the trash. My goal is not to produce more trash. So I do QR codes and things of that sort, but our website does list everything that can and cannot go into the recycle bin.
And that's the City of Redlands, or
Yeah, cityofredlands.org. Yep, go to departments and you go to facilities and community services, solid waste, and there it is.
This is a huge communication issue, isn't it?
Yes,
There's
yes.
so much information, so much we need to know. Yes.
when we talk about restaurants, is there a size of a restaurant that has to give food that's still good?
It's number of seats, so it's dependent upon seats. So yes, in tier 1 and tier 2, that's a state-driven separation between the two, and there has to be a certain number of seats in a restaurant that they are then required to set aside whatever is edible food and given to food donation.
Because I sat at a restaurant after a gathering downtown, and they literally was putting a ton of salad ingredients that were left over into a big plastic bag. That one question would be, is it going to landfill, or is it going probably not to any kind of recycle bin?
Yeah. So if it's food waste, I'm making my way through restaurants rather. talking to them, letting them know food waste needs to go directly into their organics cart. It is not to go into a bag of any sort, so that way it doesn't go to the landfill. The problem with a lot of restaurants downtown is there's a lot of homeless, and the homeless do get into those carts, and then it ends up all over the ground, and then there's a whole separate issue with that. So restaurants are struggling with that, trying to keep it where it's easily accessed for them, not easy access to the public, but meeting that criteria. Not every single restaurant in Redlands is gonna meet the threshold for what the state requires for food recovery.
Nor giving it back to people to use.
For like edible food recovery, yeah, no, there's certain requirements, a total number of seats.
And by the way, we do have an organization called Inland Harvest here that does collect food from restaurants.
Yes.
Leftover food. And that goes to the food pantries and meal programs and so forth. So, yeah, I think there was a hand up over here. Okay, go ahead.
I noticed that most every restaurant I frequent in Redlands has one option, and it's landfill. When you're get up and dump your tray or whatever, are they separating that later, or?
In restaurants, when you dump it into those, yeah, I've wondered that too, because every time I look in, it's a mess. Yeah, Burton, what, somebody from Burton?
No, that would be me.
That would be you, okay.
Food waste, yeah.
Okay.
So in a restaurant, In-N-Out's done it, Chipotle has done it. There's some others that have done it where you're exiting in the front of the house, you're exiting and you see carts that say, I left Chipotle after dinner tonight. And it used to say organics, landfill, recycling. They've removed organics. The problem is it's going to take a restaurant, somebody to be stationed right there to have every single patron that comes up and says, where do I put this? My husband doesn't even know which container to put it in every single time. And I'm like, you're married to a czar of recycling. Like, how do you not know? But most people don't know, and so it all ends up in the landfill. In all reality, everything like that, unless people are knowledgeable to know that it's a recyclable product, all of those are gonna end up in the landfill, yes.
So like they don't even try, they're just gonna say.
Correct.
Okay. I see a hand over here, Anna.
I have two questions. One is a follow-up. There are no fines for restaurants for not, or like, you know how you put a note on people's
On the oops tags, yeah.
Yeah, are they not, are the restaurants getting penalized for that, or are we just letting it go? That's my first question.
Okay. Do you want to say your second, and then I can, or do you want me to answer your first?
The second one is about styrofoam. I thought that's what you were talking about. When you go to all the restaurants in Redlands, almost all of them serve you your to-go food in styrofoam. And I thought that it was container. That's fine, except that I think that styrofoam is banned in California, and that we're not complying, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts on that is.
So first question is asking about if there's fines for restaurants who don't do what they're supposed to do as far as source separating. Then the second question is whether or not if styrofoam is allowable, because restaurants are handing your food to you in styrofoam. So I'll let Burtek answer that question about styrofoam first, because that's probably the shorter answer than what I have to get.
Yes, styrofoam is recyclable as far as Burtek's concerned. Styrofoam and all 1 through 7 numbers are all recyclable.
What are we supposed to do with our styrofoam?
You can put it in your recycling container.
Wow.
We segregate styrofoam, and we actually densify it.
Well, you should be rinsing it out. It should be a clean product.
And we densify the styrofoam
Stains are
and we
fine.
send it to a company by the name of Dart, and they're located in Corona. They take that material, they wash it, and then they turn it back into like a styrene. And if you look at your eggshell containers now, they're actually made from styrofoam. And they're green in color or they're clear in color.
When you look it up online, it says that styrofoam is banned in California several times.
Well, it's supposed to be, but it hasn't been as of yet. And so we're still recycling it. And Dart still exists in Corona, and they're still recycling it.
So
It's
then,
still being recycled.
and then to answer your question about fines for restaurants, no.
Okay, well, this is so great. I so appreciate all of us caring so much about this issue. One more question back here. And maybe one more.
This is just sort of a practical problem I've had in using those little green top containers over there when I get them filled up with the food scraps. I come outside to my green waste container that is maybe empty on this day, and I dump a bunch of rotting slop into it, which then
Thank
sticks
you.
all over the bottom.
Thank you.
I come out the next day, there are flies, fruit flies
Oh.
multiplying, and which are a terrible pest around here. And it stinks, and you can smell it 30 feet away.
Got it.
So what is this is not satisfactory.
Yeah, why
Okay,
can't we use
so-
compostable bags?
Because our processor cannot accept them. All right, so, but to answer your question, actually, yes. Restaurants, businesses are fined with, if it's contaminated, they'll get a contamination charge, and they will get a refuse charge, because the truck will have to come service it as refuse. So they will have multiple charges on them. So it's not necessarily a fine, but the drivers relay it back to customer service, they let the business know, and so they do get hit in their pocketbook. So yes, there are consequences for that. Yes, that is a concern of raw food being in the bottom of your cart if you don't have a lot of yard waste to mix with it. Sorry, but that's just the process that we have.
My brother lives in Ukaipa, they are requested to put that stuff in a plastic
Because
bag.
Burtec can handle it. We don't use Burtec.
Well, we need to change.
Well,
because it's not acceptable to have breeding of fruit flies, which will destroy our orchards.
Financially, for the best interest of the city and the residents, One Stop is our best financial option at this time. So that is why we have chosen to use One Stop for our food collection. They are capable, they are hardworking
But they
people, and
aren't
they have.
capable if they have to take it in that kind of situation.
Well, I
It
will.
might be cheaper, but there's a reason.
And I will tell you, there's not. I will tell you, I've stuck my nose in probably 800 to 1,000 carts in the last month and a half. And the only cart that actually smells is the trash, because food waste is rotting with the commingled product in their trash cart. I have stuck my nose in, I can't tell you how many green carts with food in there, and it doesn't stink. It doesn't, because you're mixing a product together, and so it doesn't.
Well, wait till we get all the turkey carcasses.
That fabulous. I love it. It's going to be fantastic.
Thank you, Carrie. Not to put you on the hot spot or not. I think this is all, and I see so many more hands up. Unless you want to stay over, Carrie, can you stay a little bit over so that people could talk to you? And Robert and Joaquin, can you stay? Okay. There are just so many questions. This is such a complex problem, and there's no easy solutions, right? So we all have to work together and try to figure out the best way we can possibly do these things, because it is so important. So I want you to give another big hand for our speakers. Thank you so much.